This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com, and I am live with a daily news update. It's being reported today by multiple sources that Randy Orton has re-signed with WWE. He's 39 years old, and it's believed he signed a multi-year contract with the company. So although he teased going to AEW, he could have just been trying to get more interest from WWE or a bigger deal from WWE. They certainly wouldn't have wanted him to go to AEW. He is one guy that really could have given AEW a lot of credibility. So that's another loss for AEW. Also, regarding Orton, apparently more news has come out from people talking about what happened at this WWE meeting before Raw yesterday that was about Saudi Arabia. Apparently, no one really spoke up at the meeting, despite people complaining on social media. As usual with wrestling, no one will actually speak up when the time actually comes to face the powers that be. Apparently, Randy Orton made a joke at the meeting. Seth Rollins gave a talk trying to be the locker room leader and very pro-company. And that's about it. The next Saudi Arabia event isn't until June. So, yeah. The crowd was apparently pretty dead for Raw. They did their fourth lowest rating in modern history with 2.14 million viewers on average, which was up 1 point from last week. And the number is still pretty bad. Animal of the Road Warriors, the WWE Hall of Fame, does not like the current NWA product. He says, I quote in a post that he posted on Facebook, NWA Power looks like a slapstick version of old school NWA. It needs to get more realistic on promos. Confronting opponents at podiums is not real life. No one would ever come near us at the podium, nor would we go near another opponent at the podium. It kept the fans wanting more. They bury each other by doing this. So, Road Warrior Animal, not a big NWA fan. Superstar Billy Graham, my good friend, I guess has been at the Mayo Clinic undergoing an endoscopy procedure. I guess getting his digestive tract examined. He posted some pictures of that on his Facebook. He's undergoing he has a lot of health issues, and he has an ongoing GoFundMe. I'll put the GoFundMe link in the description. And finally, Britt McHenry from Fox, I guess it appears, according to TMZ, she's probably going forward with a sexual harassment lawsuit against Tyrus, who was also known as Brodus Clay in WWE, also known as G-Rilla when I knew him back in Deep South Wrestling. She has hired a lawyer, I guess, and has made a complaint to the New York State, which I guess is the process of getting a lawsuit started. Of course, he could probably settle it before it becomes big, so who knows what's going to happen. Fox probably isn't going to want that going on either. I'll answer a few questions here. Paul Hosbin says Seth Rollins is no locker room Undertaker. The whole Saudi thing was a botch. Well, Seth Rollins has not been a draw. WWE lost $3.5 million the last quarter on house shows and has hit all-time lows. And he just dropped the title to Bray Wyatt. And then they switched the titles brands. Like they just did the brand switch, and already Brock Lesnar is switching to a different brand with the title, and Bray Wyatt is switching with the title too. So I can't see that. Like, could you imagine CFL and NFL like switching prizes, like trophies? It doesn't make any sense at all. Any CM Punk news? Frankie is asking. No, the same old boring bullshit that nothing really moves on him. Will we see Benoit versus Guerrero in a casket match at Mania? Robert Mons says, Solid Shark official says Seth versus Jim Ross. Who would win a Twitter debate? Jim Ross would. Definitely Jim Ross would. Now, Jim Ross takes shots at AEW too. Both companies take shots at each other. So I don't know. I have a lot more respect for Jim Ross though than Seth Rollins. Don't have anything against Seth Rollins. Never met him, but out of the three people of the Shield, to me, Roman Reigns is by far number one, without question. The other guy, whose AEW name isn't coming to me, but Dean Ambrose is a far number two from Roman Reigns, and then Seth Rollins is a number three. Someone says they only watch SmackDown because it's free TV. Otherwise, I wouldn't watch it. Any thoughts on NWA Power? I think the champion sucks and they don't have good enough talent to keep me interested in that. The retro concept is cool, but it's not. I tried watching the first episode and nothing really interests me about it. I do know it's getting less and less viewers every week. So it did have a lot of publicity for the first episode, but viewership is definitely dropping by large amounts every week. Do I hate Vince Russo? Michael Delator says, no, I've talked to him. I don't hate him. He's done 3 interviews with me on here. You can look it up. He's not the type of guy, we wouldn't go out together. Like when I interviewed Vince Russo, I also interviewed Vader. And Vader and I hung out together, and it was a blast. Actually, probably the time I spent with Vader, especially since he passed that day. And I also had an enjoyable time overall in Boulder, Colorado that weekend. That was one of my favorite trips I ever did. John Morrison on Next or Raw or SmackDown, Frankie says, well, the thing about that is, I don't know what his guarantee is, but the thing is with wrestlers, they get a guaranteed set of money. Then every time they wrestle on house shows, etc., they get extra money according to the percentage of the gate. So even if it's not a high gate, they're still getting a percentage according to where they are on the card. So if John Morrison is working NXT, where we saw in the last report, the earnings report, the house shows are only drawing around 600 fans on average in the last quarter, what's his percentage of the gate in NXT going to be? Almost nothing. So I don't think he would want to be in NXT, although he would give it some name value. Martin Misa says Paul Heyman needs to be fired. It'll probably be Bruce Prichard fired next if anyone's fired from director positions. I would think, if no other reason than Bruce Prichard's associated with Conrad Thompson, who is very well connected with AEW. He puts on the StarCast events connected with AEW. So I don't know if Prichard still does the podcast with him or not. I stopped listening a while ago. But Jim Ross said it. He said Prichard would be the next one fired. He said those director positions are scapegoat positions. Frankie says he thinks John Morrison will show up on Raw. Colorado. Cody says, should Undertaker officially retire in 2020? I think he's signed a contract for another extended period of time. I think he's going to keep doing appearances and they need him. Should he retire? I'm not one to say whether someone should retire or not. Undertaker is one of my all-time favorites, though. Do I think Saudi Arabia Crown Jewel was plane ride from hell too? No, I don't. Solid Shark official says there was no one having any fun on that plane. At least the plane ride from hell was like people partying, getting wasted, fights breaking out on the plane, people chopping each other's hair off. Michael Hayes punching Bradshaw in the face in an area where he's bladed so the blood pours out everywhere, and people passing out. It was a lot of fun. It sounds to me like this one is today's WWE wrestlers who don't party and are fairly boring, sitting on a plane for 25 to 30 hours. So yeah, it was just maybe more hell in a boring way. but I'd rather be on the first plane ride from hell for sure if I had the choice. Michael Delator, when I did my interview with Lex Luger, why mention Vince McMahon? Why would I not mention Vince McMahon in a career interview with Lex Luger? That makes absolutely no sense. And I will do a part 2 with Luger eventually. That one was very well received. Is the business doing better in Canada than Puerto Rico? Someone's asking. The business is not doing well in Puerto Rico right now. It is doing well in Canada. Overall, for independents, they're doing pretty well, but WWE is not coming hardly ever. They used to go to Toronto every month, Montreal at least every 3 months, Ottawa, here where I live, about every 3 months. Now they hardly come. So WWE's business isn't any better. And certainly people aren't watching WWE or talking about it in general that I know of. When I see it on in the gym and there's MMA or boxing on in the gym, people are watching the MMA or boxing. What wrestlers do I plan to do shoots with in 2020? Man, there's way too many to go through all that. Devious says, has TNA taken over the Canada scene? God, no. God, no. TNA is the shits, okay? And the only town they run really is Windsor, that Scott D'Amore actually lives there and has promoted there for years. He's one of the executives. It's not popular here at all. You need a special cable thing to get the Fight Network here. It's not even on basic cable. Nobody here could tell you much about Impact. No one knows about it. 2 years ago, when they came to my town, they were actually paying people to go watch the show. That's how bad it was. It made the news. People can look it up. They put out an ad in a talent hiring agency saying that actors who wanted to work for TNA could apply, and they would get $60 for sitting through one of the Impact tapings. So last question for tonight that I'll answer, Sean Ashford saying, do you ever plan to move to the U.S.? Yes.